All right. Welcome to the Failed Podcast, where, quite frankly, this episode might be a complete failure, but that don't mean nothing. I'm going to keep on recording. I'm going to keep coming back because that is the point. We don't want to quit when we get knocked down. We want to get back up, and then we want to see what we learned. In today's episode, we have a guest. He has a rich history in boxing and MMA, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about how failure looks whenever you're training, whenever you're a businessman, and the things that he's overcome in his life. Dennis Thomas, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for joining us here on the Failed Podcast. Tell us a little bit about what you do. I know you do some training, some MMA style training, but that you're also a businessman. Give us a little brief history of what you're working with.
So, I've been doing credit card merchant services for over 20 years with my company, RQSinc.com.
Yeah.
And then I under that company, I opened up my MMA gyms, streetjitsu.com. So I've got 3 MMA gyms, one in Roanoke, one in Dallas, and one in Justin.
Nice.
And then, I service small businesses throughout the United States for my credit card merchant services company, getting them their ability to accept credit cards and, get them their little credit card equipment and machines or website, or, if they need to take cards and website.
Dude, so if you're listening right now, that might be you. You might be an up and coming business and you might have some questions that have to do with receiving payment. Dennis can help you out with that. Dennis, let me dig in a little bit. Tell me a little bit about you growing up. Tell me about your family and, where you grew up and stuff.
Yeah, so I was born in Corpus Christi, but I was raised in Kingsville, Texas, from the time I was like a baby until about 15 years old. And then I left Kingsville when I was 15 and moved to Arlington by myself and started living on my own at 15.
Wow.
And then, So
let me stop you there because you said something very interesting there. 15 years old, you move out on your own. Mm-hmm. What happened during that time that caused you to have to make that, from what most would say, tough decision?
Yeah, it was pretty tough, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. My mom, on my mom's side, they're Mexican, so they kind of, at 15, you're considered like an adult, and you're considered like a man. Yeah. And so, my mom already considered me as a man at 15, and I was the oldest of 7 kids. Yeah. And so, my mom was a single mom, and so I felt like, she had a big burden to support 7 kids. So I was thinking, maybe if I left, since I'm grown now at 15, I'm a grown up, I could have one less mouth to feed for her, and then I could go to Dallas and, get a job, go to high school and send money back to her and try to help her out because, in South Texas at the time, there was not a lot of jobs for, 15-year-olds. Yeah. And so I moved to Arlington and by myself, and I got a job at Kroger, and then I got a job at I got a job at like some other places, but I would try to send money back home when I could and work and put myself through high school. So that was basically why I left.
During that time, obviously, you're having to figure out a lot of things on your own when you're 15, and it's amazing that you stayed in school as well. And it sounds like, you were making some good decisions at that time, but what were some of the tough lessons that you had to learn in those first few years and, maybe from 15 till when you graduated high school that serve you well today?
Oh, man. I mean, I learned a lot of lessons. It was rough, man. I don't recommend anybody, especially here in the United States, leave home at 15. I mean, that was like a suicide mission. It was really, really bad because, teenagers need to have guidance and things like that. So I was on my own, so I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any rules. I didn't have any supervision. And so it was tough, trying to make ends meet. And then it's hard to get a place to stay. So I was homeless for a while because apartments and things like that. They don't rent out to 15-year-olds.
Homelessness. Yeah. Now, let me clarify something. There's a lot of people that go through tough times. Yeah. Let's just say you were homeless and it was a tough circumstance. You were there for a moment and now you're doing pretty good. So was your mentality driven as it is now whenever you were homeless? Were you already trying to plan out your future? Were you planning out who you were going to be regardless of where you found yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I knew that, no matter what, I would make it. And since it was just me, it wasn't that big a deal. It was, I felt like I'm fine. If I could find something to eat or I already had a job. I got a job my first day moving to Arlington at Kroger. So I felt comfortable, I have a job. Maybe I don't, really have, a place to stay or whatever, but I found a place to stay. I made some friends. And I had an aunt that lived up here that let me stay with her for a little while, and then moved in with some friends, and then met some other friends at parties and things like that. But yeah, man, we made it work, and I met some guys that immigrated from Mexico that were a little bit older that I ended up living with because they needed a roommate to help make rent. So. So it worked out, but I wasn't really scared. I mean, at that time, when you're a teenager full of testosterone, you feel like you can do anything, you can conquer anything. So I was like, man, I thought of it as an adventure, like a little adventure. And, I was already at rock bottom. So I was like, man, nowhere to go but up,
Yeah. So 16, 17, you're going to high school. And did you manage to graduate high school?
Yeah. Yeah, so I graduated high school at Arlington High in a class of 99. But I had some setbacks and like you said, I mean, every failure is just an opportunity to learn. So I had some setbacks in high school and things like that. But, I ended up graduating and I also got my GED. So I did both. I didn't want to go to get my diploma because I was working at Taco Bell at the time. So I didn't even go get it. And then I went ahead and got my GED. So I have both.
Got it.
I don't know. So I just did both, and so it was tough, man. I mean, growing up tough with my mom had 7 mouths to feed, and so we grew up really tough, me and my brothers and my sister. So living on my own, it was fine. And my mom, she grew up pretty quick. She had me when she was 15. And then her mom had her when she was 13, and her mom had her when she was 12. So we all grew up pretty fast. And then in high school, my senior year in high school, I actually got my girlfriend pregnant.
Wow. Yeah.
So
let me just say this. So kids are a blessing. I don't want no one that's listening to think that what I'm going to say right now is because I'm clueless to the fact that kids are a blessing. But in some societies, in some circles, whenever a young person in high school has a kid, they label them, dude, why did you mess up, man? Your life's going to be ruined, and then the world comes crashing down on you, and it's already difficult as an individual, and then you add a little person. It's not a failure. It's a blessing, but it definitely is a speed bump in your life that happened maybe when you didn't want it to happen. So tell me how you accepted it. What have you learned from it, and what strengths have you gained from having a kid at such an early age?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a lot of partying, obviously being a teenager, and then having no supervision and things like that. So me and my buddies would party all the time. I knew school was important, so I knew I had to get at least a high school education. I knew I wouldn't be going to college. I just never, I didn't really like school that much. I knew that I needed it, so I figured I needed like at least a high school education to get like my basic education.
Yeah.
But I knew I wouldn't be going to college, and then I figured I would either work for a company, start at the lower level, and then learn what I could and work my way up, or maybe one day just start whatever business and just work for myself. I didn't know at the time what that would be, but that's what I thought to myself.
What did you learn from early fatherhood?
I learned, it helped me to focus. So once I found out that my girlfriend was pregnant, It made me focus on, okay, no more, I can't be partying all the time. I got to focus. I'm a dad now. I got a kid to look after. I got a girlfriend to look after. And so it made me really, really put things into perspective. So I quit partying. I quit going out with my buddies, and like immediately, I saved up for a car, and then I got us an apartment, and I just became really focused and got once I graduated high school, I got a full-time job. And so it really, before that, I was just kind of going whatever direction, you know what I mean? And then having a kid really, really made me focus, and then kind of hone in on being a provider.
Yeah. So let me fast forward to your first business, which is the credit card services. Tell me, like, what got you there? Were you doing okay financially? Did you have a stable job, or was there some turbulence maybe in those areas and you said, you know what, I got to change, or just simply an opportunity showed up and you took advantage of it?
Yeah. So the way that happened was by accident. I was, working like 80 hours, 100 hours a week, to provide. At this point in time, I was 21 and I had 3 kids now. So I was married with 3 kids and our first home, and I was the only one working. My wife was stay-at-home mom and looking after the kids and taking care of the household, and I was busting my ass working, making, not much money at the time. I was barely making above minimum wage. And so I was just working so much and literally killing myself. Yeah. There's some days I was working like 26 hours straight.
Yeah. Cause like 80 hours a week. I mean, when your kids were growing up, you missed a lot of time with them because you were working.
Yeah.
Was that also kind of a motivation for that accidental good thing, of you stepping into the credit card services?
Yeah. So my brother actually was working for this credit card company, a merchant services company, and he talked me into it. So I showed up, and I just had finished working like a 28-hour shift or something, and I was just dead tired. And they just kept talking about making $150,000 a year, and I was like, okay, sign me up, So I started there, and then I realized, like, on payday, I didn't have a paycheck, and I'm like, why? I worked all week, and they're like, no, man, you didn't sell anything. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so I didn't realize it was commission only. I didn't even know what the word commission meant. God. I didn't know the definition. So I was like, what the hell?
So let me stop you. Let me stop you right there, because there's a little nugget there, and that is sometimes we fail, and you failed at getting a check because you didn't ask the right questions. So to be clear, right? You didn't know,
exactly.
Hey, it's going to be commission. And so there's in life, sometimes the failures that we step into are simply happening because we didn't ask the right questions and get clarification. So keep going. Mm-hmm. You realize this commission base, and what changes after that?
So what changed after that is, I talked to a mentor of mine, and he was like telling me, hey, you're either going to have to sink or swim, either go back to your old job and beg for your job back, which at the time I was doing traffic control from the time I was like 18 to 21 for about 3 years. And those guys, I mean, they're blue collar, dudes, man, and they were just mean. I mean, construction dudes, and hard-nosed dudes, and they're talking so much. I was like, man, I really don't want to beg these guys for my job back because they're going to be so mean. I mean, they're going to be so vulgar and break my balls, man. And I was like, I want to do everything I can to make sure I make this credit card merchant services work before I go back. So he was like, yeah, do what you can. So, I started hustling, and I made it work that first month, and I made some money, and then I just kept doing it ever since. And 20 years later, I'm still doing it, so it was tough at first. I mean, I got home, and without that paycheck, I was used to getting paid week to week. So I showed up that Friday, and my wife and kids were waiting for me at the door so we could go out to eat. We went out to eat every Friday. That was payday. Yeah. So I was used to making like $700 to $1,000 a week back in 2002, from 1999 to 2002, or 1998 to 2002. Yeah. And then, now I come home with nothing.
Wow. So, okay.
So they were just crushed,
You know, they're all sitting out there waiting for you with empty stomachs and because you set this pattern. And so all of a sudden you have to show up at the house and say, you know, we're not going out to eat. We're eating in right now. And for the foreseen future, there's going to be some changes because your dad's doing something for our future. How did you confront that? How did you get the whole family on board? Because you're shifting the way that you do life.
Yeah. So what we did, we just cried. That's pretty much what we did. We started crying, man. We're like, Dad's an idiot, Yeah. So we started crying, and then after
Chili's, we can't go to Chili's no more.
Yeah, we can't go to Chili's. Well, not only that, but we had bills. I mean, we were living paycheck to paycheck.
Of course, yeah.
So the main thing was like, how we're going to pay the mortgage, how we're going to pay, the utilities. I mean, how we're going to buy groceries,
And you're carrying the shoulder of the whole family on you. And from a man's perspective, boy,
working.
You miss a mortgage, you miss a car bill, man. I mean, you start feeling, like a failure at night. You have to ask yourself, what am I doing? I'd rather go just work the 80 plus hours because I just got to make ends meet. Something in your heart was pushing you through, even though, it looked very dim at the time. Where did you find this encouragement to keep going?
I mean, so what I did is that Friday when I didn't get a check, my boss, he literally said, "What the f- are you doing sitting in front of me?" And I'm like, and then I was like, oh, he's cussing at me. And I was like, okay, I want a fucking check, and he's like, you don't get a fucking check. And I'm like, why not? He's like, because you didn't sell anything. And I'm like, what am I supposed to be selling? I don't even know what's going on. I mean, they didn't really train us, And so I'm like, I went to every appointment you gave me on these sheets, and I worked like 50 hours this week going from business to business and da-da-da. And he's like, yeah, but you didn't sell it. You have to sell them something. And I'm like, listen, man, I don't know what's going on or what kind of scam you're trying to pull or whatever, but I just spent 50 hours of my own gas money, my own, car and time, and I have no money. And I was like, I can't let you leave this office until you explain to me what it is that we're doing here, what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and how I can make money.
Now,
you know what I mean?
Did class start that moment after that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he sighed and he's like, all right, man. And he literally had his backpack that he would carry his laptop and all his, folders and files and stuff in there. So he goes, follow me. So I followed him to the conference room, and he started drawing on the whiteboard. He brought out a bunch of credit card machines and check card readers and debit pin pads. And he's like, these are credit card machines, and this is this, and this is that. And he kind of gave me like a quick crash course as far as like what the company does, what we do, what we're trying to sell, what's going on. Just a really quick crash course, maybe like 30 minutes to an hour. You know what I mean? Because he wanted to go out.
Did you leave motivated after that talk with him? Did you see a path?
I left a little bit motivated because I at least knew what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
A little bit. In a nutshell, he gave me like just a quick, quick gist of it. So I kind of knew. Before that, I was like, okay, they tell me to go here. I'm making $150,000 a year, supposedly. Okay, cool. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
All I knew is I needed to wear like a tie and dress business casual, or even dress like full business with a blazer. I went to Walmart, got my little suit, and that's what I thought I had to do, but, so the following week I got one guy to sign up. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just told him, I said, listen, here's a pen, here's the application. Because he told me no. He's like, I don't want it. Get out of here. And I was like, listen, fill out whatever the hell you want to fill out. Write whatever you want to write. I just need to show up with something, And so he filled it out. He signed it. He gave it back to me. I took it into the office, turned it in. So that Friday, I was standing there for my check, and my paycheck, I opened it up. It was $12.50.
Wow. Well, you're having some tough lessons. Your brother sold you. I don't know what your brother told you, but he convinced you to go.
Dude, he convinced me. He was like, hey, man, I'm making $150,000 a year. You got to quit breaking your back doing manual labor, traffic control, this and that. And then I called him right then and there on the spot at the office with that $12.50 check. And I called him up and I go, hey, man, what'd you sell me, dude? I quit my job, came to work for this company, And in the last 2 weeks, I made $12.50.
Wow.
You know, and I was used to making $700 to $1,000 a week. And now I made $12.50 in the last 2 weeks. He goes, "Oh yeah, man, I know that company's full of shit." He goes, I only worked there for a week and then I quit. And I was like,
This is your brother. This is your blood brother.
This is my blood brother, man. But at the time, I got to kind of, you know, he was 20 years old. You know, I was 21. We were young and dumb, and we didn't know what the hell, you know. And I was like mad at him. I was like, "You man," I was like, "You made it sound like you've been working for these people for a while, you know." And there again, I wasn't asking the right questions, like, "How long you been working here? Show me your fucking first paycheck," you know.
Yeah. So your brother showed up in a suit and he told you, "Come check out this place."
Yeah, man. He told me that. He's like, "Yeah, you make $150,000 a year," and I'm like, "What? Doing what?" I'm like, "Oh man, I'm in. Count me in, man."
Well,
you know, so
that's so funny. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So you obviously, how long does it take? We're going to kind of leapfrog through this part because I want to get to the fighting part. So leapfrog, when did the change start happening? How many days or months into it did you say?
It took me about a month. It took me about a month before I made some decent money. I made like $1,000. I sold a credit card machine to a moving company, a wireless credit card machine, and I made $1,000. But in that time, that was $1,000 in a month.
Yeah.
Now we're at like 45 days, and I made $1,000, $1,012.50.
Yeah. Probably a quarter an hour or some 20 cents an hour added up to, right? Because you worked all that time.
Yeah, 40. Yeah. So, but I was like, but I saw that I made one sale and I made $1,000. I'm like, man, okay, I could do this now. You know, that's when it clicked. Like, okay, I know how to do this. I know if I'm making $1,000 a pop, I can make, you know, 3 or 4 sales a month. That's $3,000 or $4,000 a month.
So you stopped your mind. Your mind shifted here. So whenever you go through a shift / a failure in life, all of a sudden there has to be a shift in your thinking. So before that one machine, before that $1,000 commission, your mind was programmed per hour, and now it was programmed per sale. So now here's the shift that starts to happen. So now you're saying, I need to sell 4 units. And that sounds a lot easier than saying, I need to work 50 hours a week. I need to go to this. I need to dress like that. And all of these other little, you know, things that matter, but not as much as selling the units. And so tell me about this mind shift. Did you see it? And then how did it start taking you to the next level and making you more committed to your job?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it and I was like, okay, if I do 4 units, you know, I'll make $4,000 a month. That's average about $50,000 a year. Somewhere, you know, $48,000, $50,000 a year. So I was like, I could probably do that. Yeah, I could swing that. And so after my first full year, I looked at my tax returns and I saw that working, you know, with traffic control, anywhere from 50 to 80 hours to 100 hours a week, my best year only made like $38,000. My best year. But then a full year doing the credit card services, I made about $42,000 working only an average of 50 hours a week. So I was able to make more money working anywhere from, you know, 30 less hours a week or even 50 less hours a week.
I think in life, it's like in order for people to overcome any circumstance, whatever they're going through, the challenges of life, investing your time properly has a lot to do with it. And it's amazing that you went from investing 80 to 100 hours a week, and you cut it in half sometimes, and you're getting more out of it. Not only are you making more money, but now your home life and you're able to be a father that's present. So now you're gaining momentum. When did you see that you were a different person and this was going to be the path that you take, that this was going to be your business?
Well, probably about almost a year later, I was pretty much running the office, you know, but I wasn't getting paid any extra for it. The owners were just, hey, you know, pretty much let me take over, and they were just on vacation and kind of cakewalking the whole time. And so the employees, everybody there thought that I owned the company, and our vendors thought that I owned the company, and everybody thought, and I was like, no, I don't own the company. I'm just a sales rep. And so
You were getting CEO training.
Yes. And there was a lot of bad vibes in the company, so a lot of the employees would come up to me and they're like, listen, man, the writing's on the wall. These owners hate each other. These partners hate each other. It's getting, it's getting really bad here. There was like, the owners, one of them was using drugs. The other one was, they were fighting all the time. It was a really toxic environment.
Yeah.
And so they were like, listen, if we believe in you, if you start your own company, we'll all come work for you. And so they and I was scared, and they just kept motivating me. And I talked to my wife about it, and she's like, yeah, I mean, pray about it. Let's pray about it. Let's figure it out. So we prayed about it, and they were just bugging me about it like crazy because they were scared.
Yeah.
And so I went ahead and talked to some credit card processors, and I talked to some of the vendors and things like that, and they're like, yeah, we'll back you. We'll help you out as far as like, 30-day nets on equipment and things like that, to where you don't have to put up any money up front, and we got your back and we can help you. So.
Dude, it sounds like the people that were basically working under you saw a character that was worth trusting. And sometimes it's, people are funny in the sense that they have a lot of failures in life and they don't know, why do I keep failing? Why don't people believe in me? And they never look in the mirror and say, you know what, I need to change my character. And I love that you shared that part, because it's important just to be a hard worker, to be a good guy, to be honest, right? To do what you do and like I said, and be honest. And so character you can see the benefits, and you can see how it paid off in your journey. And I think that that's a key whenever we talk about overcoming failure. You got to have a good character. So now you get the vendors, everyone's on board. You got to make the leap. How does that happen?
Yeah, so I told the guys that I was leaving. I told my bosses, and the same guy that I told him, hey man, I can't let you leave until you at least tell me what it is we do at this company, And he actually barricaded me in his office and wouldn't let me leave, because he's like, I'm not letting you quit, And I'm like, you need to move, man, or I'm gonna move you, And so he was like, oh. He's like, I'm not letting you. And I'm like, no, man, I've been running this company for you guys. And we see the writing on the wall, man. You guys aren't doing things the right way. Everything's falling apart. And I just got to do what's best for me and my family. So I got to go. And so eventually he moved after I convinced him, like, man, I'm going to have to either call the cops on you, or I might have to physically move you out of the way, And so he eventually moved and out of my way, and then I started the company. But it wasn't easy, man. It was really hard because nothing went as planned at all.
So it's crazy. So when you're 15, you left. Not everything was as planned, but you adjusted, right? I mean, all the way from when you were homeless, and then after that, you got a job and you adjusted. Then you started, you had to buy a suit. You got a new job. You got $12 check. And you had to adjust, right? All these adjustments from no more dinner on payday, and you adjusted. And then here you go again, man. You're about to leave, and it's like you're starting from the bottom up, but you're starting a little higher now because you know a lot more, but there's new things that you have to learn. But you keep finding yourself in this uncomfortable beginning in a lot of things, but you keep overcoming it. What is it that maybe your mom taught you? Or what's instilled inside of you for, to face that and not get scared, but to approach it and move forward?
Yeah, I mean, my mom, obviously, she's such a hard worker. She was working 2 or 3 jobs, and I saw that. I saw her working 2 or 3 jobs growing up, and she's the hardest worker that I ever met. She never really made more than minimum wage her entire life, but she could still take care of 8 people, including herself.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where a lot of people, they make, 6 figures a year and still can't figure out how to, provide for themselves, just one person, or even 2 people or 3. So, I learned that from her. And, at one point I remember thinking, like, man, she's such a hard worker. How many women do you see throwing shingles over their shoulder, climbing up on apartment roofs and houses and roofs on houses and doing roofing?
Your mom?
How many women do you see do roofing?
Your mom was doing roofing.
Man, she's like, You're doing roofing, man. She's like super Latina, man. Like super Mexican, you know. Like, you know, you don't see that. You don't see. I mean, roofing is a hard job, man.
Oh, I know.
Doing roofing in the summer and throwing a stack of shingles over her shoulder and climbing up, you know, on top of buildings or houses or whatever, doing roofs. And so I saw that, man. I knew I had that in me because I'm like, if she could bust, I could bust.
So that imagery of your mom and how she worked and what she was doing, it found a place in your memory, and it added motivation, right?
Yeah, I did, man. I had motivation because my dad was lazy as hell, and he never liked to work, and he never liked working. So I had both ends. One guy who didn't work at all and hated working, and then my mom on the other side of the coin who was just, you know, just all she did was work. And then that put the responsibility of me of helping taking care of my little brothers and my sister. And you know, so you know, I had that in me, the hard work ethic. And then even in boxing, you know, I showed up that first day and I was court ordered to go to boxing. So that's a whole nother story. And so you know, I showed up that day not knowing anything, but my coach, Jaime Cantu, knew how to get to me because he knew I didn't want to be there. But he was like, hey, I tell you what, if you step in the ring and you beat this guy, you beat one of my fighters, you never have to come back here again.
Yeah. So here we're telling your story about, and so you're in credit services, you're finally going to branch off. I want to get into the boxing. You said that it was a court order that you had to box, but take me to like where things got really good with your job, and then you stepped into this boxing thing that led into your second business that you are running now.
Yeah, so now at this point I started my own company, RQS, and it was going well from, you know, basically 2002 to 2009 or 10. Because the housing market crashed. Yeah. You know, the housing market bubble burst. So when that happened, from about, you know, that time all the way to 2012, I had lost about 70% of my customer base.
Oh, man.
You know, small to medium-sized businesses, because, you know, with the housing market crash, it hit like New York and California first. And then it kind of hit Texas later, you know. And so I noticed like that when things happen in the economy, it usually hits Texas later. You know, it usually hits like California or you know, these more populated places first. And so when it really affected me was around 2012, the beginning of 2012. I noticed, I was like, man, my income has dropped by like 70%.
Wow.
So I had to let go of all my sales reps, my staff. I moved my office back to my home. I had a, you know, office building, everything else. And then I became just a one-man show. I was just me operating out of my house, trying to consolidate and make things work. But we were still trying to get by because now we had our lifestyle, you know, you know, that we were used to, and now it got reduced by 70%. So I was like, what else can I do? Because most entrepreneurs, they don't have all their eggs in one basket. They have multiple baskets and they have their eggs in different ones. That way, if something goes wrong, you know, you still have your other business to rely on. So I was like, man, what else do I know how to do? I'm like, I know how to sell stuff door to door, and I know how to fight. So I was like, either I can start going pro and then try to make this, you know, fight thing, you know, a reality, or I can, you know, figure out another business to do. And then one of my customers actually noticed my cauliflower ear I was setting up his credit card services, and then he started asking me about that, and he was a big UFC fan, and so he started asking me to train him. So I started training him and charging him, and then I made it into a side gig, and then I got to where there was too many clients because I was mobile. I would go to their house, I go to their business and train them, and so it got to where it was too big. So I started dispatching my buddies that I trained with and said, hey, if I send you to this client, I'll do the billing, I'll charge him, and I'll pay you, and I'll keep a small percentage, like finder's fee or whatever. So I started doing it that way. And then eventually they started asking me, the clients started asking, hey, do you have a facility? We want you to have a facility, come out there. So, long story short, I ended up opening a gym in Roanoke, the Street Jitsu, the original location, in August of 2012. Wow. And so this August will be our 10-year anniversary.
And so it's interesting because the housing market crashed. A lot of people lost a lot of money. Times were tough, and so boom, here you go again. It's like you just attract challenges, man. But the great thing about your story is that when they hit you, you figure out a pivot, and now you pivoted and you started fighting, boxing, training people. What about fighting fit with what you learned in business? I mean, because it seems like one is real physical and then the other one's real mental. But the best fighters, from what I know, it's a mental game. Like you gotta know how to fight, but your mental game's got to be strong. Did you see that start to pay off as you entered this new industry?
Yeah, I mean, with fighting, it's like you said, it's physical, and the good thing about being a physical athlete or a fighter is there's not a whole lot that scares you, so you can do these deals, you can go into conference rooms, you can do these different things, at least for me, because I'm like, at least I'm not getting choked or punched in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like really, like all they could say is no. Or they could say yes, or they could say maybe, or they can just say words, but they can't physically hurt me. So what am I afraid of?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where like with fighting, they can physically hurt you. So there's some fear there. Like you could get knocked out, you can get brain damage, they could break your jaw, they could choke you unconscious, you could die.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, so when looking at, so that gave me the confidence as far as business when I enter a boardroom or I do a pitch to a big, Fortune 500 company or whatever. I'm like, I always go back to that. Like, listen, I'm not getting elbowed in the mouth. I'm not getting my teeth kicked in or whatever. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal. You can go in there. The worst thing they could say is no, or they're not interested, or thanks but no thanks, or whatever. Or they could get, verbally aggressive and tell me to off or whatever, but they can't physically hurt me. And if they try to physically hurt me, I would win that fight. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, so that's what I learned from it. And they kind of help each other, because the business side helps you on the mental side, because it's all about mental rejection.
Yeah.
Being and
able
so
to take it.
There's a lot of fighters, there's a lot of athletes who they're willing to step in a cage, but they're not willing to go up and do a sales pitch or talk to a room full of people or do a border. I mean, they would literally rather get punched in the face than do that.
Yeah.
So having both, I think it balances out, and so I have the best of both worlds, mentally. So I have the mental side and this is how I train my students. You have mental jiu-jitsu, emotional jiu-jitsu, and verbal jiu-jitsu. Those are the better than having physical. Physical is like your last ditch option.
Yeah.
Right? Like the verbal stuff didn't work, the mental stuff didn't work, the emotional stuff didn't work. So now, the verbal stuff didn't work. Now you got to get physical.
Got it.
You know what I mean? And so but you shouldn't do if the physical first. I mean, now you're like a Neanderthal.
So the first three are applicable for people training and to improve in jiu-jitsu, but they're also applicable in their life, in their jobs, right? After they leave your training. Tell me a little bit about those three and how you've seen some of the people you train grow, and, just tell you stories of how that helped them.
Yeah, I mean, just helps them with shyness, like either getting jobs or talking to their spouse or talking to their kids or talking to their boss or coworkers, or just being leaders and learning how to use their words and speak up and talk.
Yeah.
As opposed to just getting pissed off and breaking and hitting people and just, doing physical things that aren't going to help you.
Yeah.
So, or just bottling it up and just keeping all that, those emotions inside. If you learn to speak, you can get those words out. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, if you get physical with people, you can only fight one person at a time and do it well. One at a time.
Yeah.
But if you use your mind, if you use your words, you can become president. You could run a country. You could run a company. You can manage 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people or whatever with your mind, with your words.
Okay, I'm gonna
stronger than the physical side.
I'm gonna give you a free tweet. Okay, so a fist can impact one person, but a mic can impact numbers of people.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about when you hear the word or people saying, I want to quit, I failed. Man, I don't know. When you hear the word failure, what comes to mind and what would you say to someone so that it doesn't beat them down and cause them to quit? And I'm saying that because when you're training people, I'm sure they're like punching the bag and they're saying, I can't go one more time. I'm so tired. What do you tell them? How do you motivate them to dig deeper?
So basically I tell them failure. When you fail, you don't ever really lose. You learn, right? You're either going to win or you're going to learn. So every failure is a learning opportunity. I tell them, look at this example. Most of our members are guys, and most guys played video games before.
Yeah.
And I said, so you're playing this video game, your favorite video game, and you die in the game, whether it's Mario Brothers. If you played Super Mario Brothers 1, and you played it continued, you died 1,000,000 times. There wasn't, like nowadays, you can respawn from where you left off. You can pause the game. You can do all. Back in the day, when you're dead, you got to start all the way from the beginning. And I'm like, it's the same thing in life. You're playing that video game and you die, to jump over the bad guy next time. You know where all the stuff is. And I'm like, it's like that in fighting. It's like that in life.
Yeah.
So you can't just give up. You got to. You're going to learn from it. You're going to learn from playing Super Mario Brothers. You're going to learn from Jiu-Jitsu. And that's the great thing about Jiu-Jitsu is you can tap. You can go 100% and tap, and then you start over. So if you and your partner are fighting, your training partner in Jiu-Jitsu, and you get stuck in a submission and he's choking you out, you can just tap and he's going to stop, let you go. You're going to reset, and you can ask him or you can ask the coach, hey, what did I do wrong? How did I get stuck in this choke?
Yeah.
Okay, you need to be here. You need to be here. You should do this. And you're not going to get it right the first time because it's muscle memory, it's timing, it's all these different things. But you have to keep trying and trying and trying and trying and getting better and getting better. And over time, you'll see the results. It might take you 3 minutes, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years to get better.
Yeah.
But you'll see that, and that's what I love about jiu-jitsu, because if you're tapping, you're breaking somebody's arm and they tap, you just let them go. You don't break his arm, you just let go. And then you restart. It's kind of like a video game where you start over.
Yeah.
And every day you come into the gym, you tap out and you start over. You tap out and you start over. You tap out and you start over. And that helps you in all different aspects of your life. And then I tell the kids all the time that train with us, they're worried about a big test at school or things like that. And I say, listen, at least you're not getting choked out, right?
Yeah.
That's pressure. You have a 350-pound 40-year-old grown man choking you out in the gym.
That's pretty bad.
and you're scared of this freak. He's 6'7", but you're not afraid of him.
Yeah.
You'll fight him 10 times that day in class, but you don't want to. You're afraid of this test, or you're afraid to study, or whatever, or you're afraid to ask your parents for something, or your teacher, or whatever. No, man, there's worse things. So martial arts teaches you boxing, wrestling, MMA, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, all those different things. Muay Thai, they teach you that you can get better, and that maybe you can't jump rope for 5 minutes straight when you first walk into the gym. Next thing you know, you're able to jump rope for 50 minutes straight.
Yeah.
But it takes time. Now when
people are grappling, what's one of, I know there's probably many, but what's one of the reasons why they fail, or that you have to stop them and say, look, dude, you keep messing up and getting choked out, or you get put in an arm bar or whatever, because you're not focused, you're not doing this step. How do you coach them through those failures?
It's just like chess. Checkers, I've taught my kids how to play checkers and other people how to play checkers or tic-tac-toe. You can literally teach somebody who's never played checkers or tic-tac-toe in less than 5 minutes how to play the game.
Yeah.
If you try and teach someone how to play chess, it's a lifetime of educating them. And so martial arts or jiu-jitsu, it's physical chess with your bodies that it's going to take them. It's like, I'm going to show you how to play chess. And with chess, you know, the each piece moves a different way. And so trying to explain chess to somebody, you know, it doesn't matter how angry you get. If you have a 10-year-old who plays chess all the time and they have thousands and thousands of hours on the chessboard playing chess, and then you get this, you know, muscle-bound steroid guy who's 6'11", 400 pounds of muscle, right, in the gym every day, it doesn't matter how much he can bench press or how hard he can hit or how much he weighs, that 10-year-old kid can beat him on the chessboard every single time. And it's like that with jiu-jitsu. That's what's beautiful about that sport is I'm only 5'6", 145 pounds, but I can defeat 99% of the human population because I put the thousands of hours mentally in jiu-jitsu, you know, and that's when they come in. And I was the same way. I came in overweight. I was 65 pounds heavier than I am now. I was about 225, and I tried to use a lot of strength, and everything I did would just have people submitting me faster and faster. I had teenagers, women were tapping me out, you know, housewives, moms, whatever, you know, teenage girls were tapping me out because it's strategy and physics and you have to know basically how the human body works and what happens when you put this here and move here and balance and leverage and things like that, you know, and cardio. And so that's the thing is people don't believe it. They don't understand. We have NFL players that'll come into the gym. We have college football players, you know, NBA players, and they come in and they'll get tapped out by a 14-year-old girl or guy. And a lot of them leave, man. The bigger they are, the bigger their ego, and they get up off the mat and they walk out the door.
That's a hard lesson to learn, but I think it's a valuable lesson. And you know, the challenges in life, you know, they may knock you down, but they ain't got to make you lose. You know what I mean? Like reassess and then come at it again and give it the best that you got, get mentally strong. Let me finish. By the way, man, thank you for everything that you've shared, man. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom inside of you. Your life has a lot of good things in it, and you've overcome a lot. And you refuse to let failure get the best of you, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I feel like failure taps out when it comes to Dennis. You know what I'm saying? It's trying to beat you down, but then it says, fine, Dennis, you got it, man. And I love it, man. Your story is great, and I hope in a future date, I'll visit one of your studios and do a little video podcast, you know what I mean? So people can see what you do. What are some final thoughts whenever it comes to failure, or just if someone's listening right now, a young person or someone who's like just defeated, man, and they're down on the ground, they're getting choked out, you know, and they're about to give up. What would you tell them?
I tell them, you know, that if they haven't reached success, they haven't failed enough. You know, you have to fail enough to hit that success point, you know, and when I would train my salespeople, I would train them, if you haven't gotten enough no's, you're never going to get that yes. And so if you have to find all the no's, and I would thank even the people, the clients or the customers that would tell me no. It's like, thank you for telling me no. That's just one more no that's leading me closer to a yes.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that in, you know, fighting and training. It's like, you know, keep tapping out, because you're going to keep tapping out so much, you're going to be damn near invincible one day. You know, because, you know, you're going through the fire, man. You're going through it. You're putting in the work. And every time they tap you out, it's making you stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And you're damn near unbeatable at some point, man. It's amazing to see people come through that have been with us for, you know, some of them have been with us almost 10 years, you know, and to see them start from the bottom and see how far they've come, you know, it's like, it's amazing. It's amazing, man, just to see the grind and see their improvement. And they just, you know, I mean, some of them are scary, man. They've tapped so much in those early years that they're so, they're so hard to beat.
Wow.
They're damn near invincible. You can't break them. You cannot break them,
That's great. Before we go, if people want to get a hold of you, and I know there's two reasons why they would. One is the credit card services. Maybe if you're a small business, but the trainer, the MMA, the jiu-jitsu. How can people find you on Instagram or your social media?
So on Instagram, it's Coach El Travieso is my Instagram handle.
That translates as Dennis the Menace. How's your nickname?
Dennis the Menace.
Dennis the Menace, my man. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then the website.
Coach El Travieso.
Very good.
And then
and I'll put that on the description below. That way people can find you and get in touch with you. If they want to learn some jiu-jitsu, man. Thank you so much for coming on the Feld podcast. This was a great time. Thank you all for listening. I hope that y'all took something from this talk. My takeaway is just keep going, man. And if you got to tap out because something didn't go your way, it's because you're going to refocus and figure out what went wrong. But you're going to come back to the mat and you're going to face the fight again to keep going, keep learning, keep getting stronger. And it was, what was it? Verbally stronger, mentally, and what was the third one?
Emotional.
You
gotta have that emotional. Yeah, if you don't have your emotions in check, man, life's gonna be hard for you.
Yeah.
And our motto for the gym is roll with the punches.
There you go.
That's our motto. Roll with the punches because life's gonna punch you.
That's right.
And you gotta roll with it, man.
Let's roll.
You gotta know how to roll with those punches. You can't give up.
All right, man. Well, thank you again, and everyone listening. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all on the next one.